All right, class. Here we are with the bollin knot. There are a couple of different ways to tie this according to its particular situation. So, like the double figure eight that we learned earlier, the bollin is a knot that puts an eye, or a loop-like shape, a closed loop, at the end of a long line. So, as with all our videos, this is the white or free or working end, so W in white for working, meaning this is the loose or open end of the line. It's not attached to anything prior to starting this particular knot. Now, the other end of the rope, the standing end, is, again, can be attached to something, can be loose, or whatever. But it's called standing because it's probably or possibly obligated in some way. You don't need both ends of this line free to tie this knot, which is very important. So the bollin puts a eye or closed loop shape in the end of a line, and this is a strong knot. It's non-binding, so it's easy to untie after it's done its work, and it's often used in sort of snap emergency situations when you have to get an anchor line around something very, very quickly and then throw the rest of the line to somebody, like if they are whitewater rafting. The bollin is typically the knot that's used, or one of the knots used for swiftwater rescue by staff that are overseeing that whitewater rafting. So in a scenario like when a whitewater photographer or videographer has paddled through the rapid ahead and posted up on a nearby rock, and they're watching and filming their clients go through on whitewater rafts led by guides. Let's say somebody gets bucked out of the raft and they're having trouble swimming in the whitewater. The bollin is a knot that you could use to tie the line around yourself or around a fixed anchor like a nearby boulder or secure tree, and toss the other end of the line, confident that that person's not going to drag you in as well, because it's anchored. The line is anchored to something harder to pull into the water than yourself, like a boulder. So this is one way to tie it. In a separate video, we'll show you a way to tie it very quickly around yourself or around something that you can't drop that terminal eyelet or loop over, okay? But this is the first way. This is the basic way. So first thing you do is make sure that working end is free, and then move down the bight or middle section of the line just a little bit. We're going to need to make a loop. So take the working end in your hand and twist the line a little bit, putting that working end to overlap the standing end. There's our little eyelet. Now, a lot of people explain this knot or teach it as a rabbit and its hole. So we've got the rabbit. Maybe it's a cottontail. It's got a white end. Ha! Yeah? Right? Anyway, this is the rabbit. This is its hole. And this is a tree near the hole. The rabbit comes up from the underside of the loop that you just made, so up and out of its hole, goes around behind the tree, and then back down the hole, behind where it came out. And that's the whole bollin. So you would hang on to the working end and actually pull so here's the loop that you need, pull the standing end to trim or clean or sort of gently tighten up this knot, okay? So we'll do this several more times. Working end, bight, standing end. So move a little bit down from the free working end, take the working end in your hand, twist the line as you form a single loop, and the working part of the loop goes atop the standing part of the loop. Then pick it up in your hand. The rabbit comes up and out of its hole from the underside, goes around behind the tree, and then the rabbit goes back into the hole that it first came out of, and then you pull the standing end of the line to tighten this knot down upon itself. Okay, so this is a bollin. A properly tied bollin should have a nice sort of necktie collar around the standing end. It should have the loop coming out the side of the knot, coming up into the knot and up into the knot. So side, up, and up and in. Okay? Again, several more times so you can practice this at home till you can do it in your sleep. So, start with an open, loose working end. Move down the line towards the bite, the middle part of the line, in the direction of the standing end. Take the working end and give it a twist so that it forms a natural small loop with the working end on top of the standing end. Take your rabbit or the free or loose or working end, bring it up from the underside so that it comes out of the eyelet or its loop. Push that through and up, and then the rabbit goes behind the tree, and then back down in its hole. Then you just sort of hang on to that and the loop and pull the standing end, which can already be tied off to something. You don't need the other end. That's what a clean bollin looks like from the front. Now this is spelled bowline, but it's pronounced bollin. Like a lot of sailing terms, and that's kind of where this knot comes from. A lot of others do as well, of course. The bowline knot is one that you would tie off to a bowsprit or a small mast pointing off the front of a sailing vessel. But just like with the coxswain, so the person that is keeping time for people rowing a ship or a boat or other small craft, or the boatswain, which is like kind of like the person below the captain, but also below the first mate, but also below the second mate. That boatswain is pronounced bosun. Along the same line, the pronunciation of bowline becomes bollin. Okay? So one or a couple more times just to practice it. Start with an open end, a free or loose or working end. Move towards the bite. Twist the line gently so that the working end part of this loop that you're forming rests naturally atop the standing end. Pick that up. Feed the line up through the bottom of that loop so the rabbit comes up out of its hole, around behind the tree, and then back down into the hole. Then you hang on to the free end, the loop that you're trying to create, and you pull on the standing end to get that bollin shape. So, high collar around the standing end, and the loop enters the knot in 3 places. The side, where the working end pops out in the middle, and where the loop goes up next to the working end. Again. Working end, the bite, middle section of the line, gently twist. Sorry, my cat is playing with the rope. twist so that the working end of the line is resting atop the standing end of the line. Then bring the rabbit up out of the hole, around behind the tree of the standing end, and then tuck the rabbit back down into its hole behind where it came out. Hang on to the rabbit, the working tip or free end of the line, and the loop that you're trying to form, that's this one here, and pull the working end of the line until the whole thing just kind of gently tightens up. Now, depending on how you tie this, you might have a little bit of loose end on the working end. That's fine. It's just loose. You can tie a stop knot in there, like an overhand, if you're worried about it pulling back through. Otherwise, you're good to go. Working end loops over the standing end. Free end comes up out of the rabbit hole, behind the tree representing the working end of the line, and then right back down in the hole behind the line where it came out. Then hold on to that, hold on to the loop, and pull the standing end of the line. Bollin. Also, my cat is evil and must be destroyed. Working end over standing end. Remember to give it a little quarter twist as you do that. It will naturally form that loop properly. You don't have to force the line to do anything. And then up and out, behind the standing end, and then back down into the hole where it came out, behind the part of the line where it just came out of the hole. That's this right here. Hang on to the end, and on the two parts of the eyelet, or the loop that you created, pull on the standing end of the line to create your bollin. It looks like this. It's a nice, strong, safe loop for emergency work, or you can put a tent stake through that, or whatever. And even if the line is pretty old and starting to fray and so forth, because it needs to be replaced for safety reasons, this is, again, a non-binding knot, so you don't have to worry about that. It will release easily. If you're having trouble releasing this knot, flip it over. Now we're looking at the back of the bollin, and pull the top of the bollin along the working end, and the whole thing just becomes very loose. This is an easy operation, but when you pull on the line, when you put tension on it, it does the opposite. It pushes that backside of this part of the knot down towards the knot and kind of winches everything tight. But since it's a non-binding knot, looking at it from the back, you can just pull on the collar, and the whole thing is now just very loose and comes apart very easily. One last time. The bollin. The bite near one end, the working end. Working end over standing end to make the rabbit's hole. Rabbit comes up through the hole, goes around the tree, growing above the hole, the standing end, and then back down into the hole behind where it just came out. Hang on to the rabbit, hang on to the two parts, the two sides of the loop that you just made, pull on the standing end until the bollin is nice and trim and secure. And if you leave yourself a little bit of extra length in the line, tie an overhand stop knot to make sure that the working end doesn't go back through and pull itself out. But if you need to untie this knot and it's winched down pretty hard, flip the knot over till you see the back side, the back of the collar of this knot wrapped around the standing end of the tree, and push that along the standing end until the knot is very loose and floppy and just kind of falls apart. Good luck.